All right, everybody, welcome back to Genuine Connections, episode 2. I'm again Jake. We're here with Luke and our new guest, Josh. So, Josh, what is your story? What are you all about, man? We just want to jump right into it.
Well, that's a broad question.
Just tell us a life story,
Tell
man.
us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I came from a little farm town in Washington called Yelm. Grew up off the grid with like solar power and chickens, 5 cats, a dog, well water, that kind of thing. I live in Seattle now, and I'm happy to say we do have power and running water, so that's a big step up for me. Let's see.
Dude, I always just to cut you off, I always thought you were like a Seattle
Native?
Yeah, I didn't know you were
Yeah.
just a good old country boy.
No, I'm from an hour and a half south from here. It's a different world, but yeah, I've been in Seattle since after college. I'm a personal trainer. I work for myself, so I train clients around Seattle. Got a bunch of other interests, which I think is why Luke and I know each other we know each other for like 6-7 years, something like that.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but these days I'm really into personal development, martial arts, meditation, that kind of stuff. So that's what I spend my time on.
Last time I talked to you, you were doing jujitsu, right?
Yeah, I'm super into it, and I'm kind of bummed that it's on pause during this COVID thing. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on that.
That's some heavy stuff, man.
Yeah, it's you guys ever had any experience with that or watched jujitsu?
The closest I've ever gotten to martial arts was when I was in the Marine Corps, and they taught us Marine Corps martial arts.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that Krav Maga.
It's like a mixture of a bunch of different martial arts. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just like fucking destroy.
No, actually, no. The whole problem with it is you never actually practice like full on fights. Like the way that they test you and the way that you learn everything is on a static opponent. So your opponent just stands there like this, and then you do the move, and then you pass, and it's the stupidest.
Dude, that's like other martial arts. Have you seen those videos of guys getting debunked?
Yeah. Those.
Wait,
are
that dude that like, and he doesn't even touch him, and then it just
yeah. Well, that guy
man.
too. But then
there's this
masters.
one. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this guy, and he does that, and he challenges this kickboxer to fight him, and they do this whole thing, and it becomes very apparent in the first couple seconds that he doesn't know how to fight, and he doesn't know it. He just gets kicked in the face, and it's really terrible. But
yeah, it's most of that stuff is like theory.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about, I think what made me fall in love with jiu-jitsu among other things is that it's probably like the most intensely you can practice a martial art and the most honestly without getting brain damage, right? Or without like seriously hurting yourself, right? Like if you're sparring full out with boxing every day, you're gonna get pretty messed up. And then on the flip side, you have things like we were just talking about, like Aikido or other things where you don't actually know if what you're doing would have, be relevant to an actual combat situation. So
I would say that
really drew me in.
If you're doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that in a one-on-one situation, you'll almost always be able to just submit the other guy. But there is a downfall. If you say you get in a street fight against somebody and you practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu or some other type of grappling, it's super effective one-on-one. But if you go to the ground and there's other people around, then you're super vulnerable.
Yeah.
Getting, kicked.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that applies in any situation. Like if you're surrounded by people that could eventually intervene in between the one-on-one, you're going to be outnumbered and you're going to probably lose.
Yeah.
Nobody's John Wick. Yeah.
Yeah. We should probably put a disclaimer here that like run away at all costs, regardless of if you know what you're doing or not. Like, I'll tell you a little story. I was down on, Dearborn, and some druggie ran up to me and like kind of asked me for something and then lunged at me. My first instinct was to jog away, man. Like I don't want any part of that. And I've never tried to get in a street fight out at the bars. Lucas and I have been out at the bars together. I have no interest,
No.
So I think no matter how good you think you are at martial arts, stay away from that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, even as a guy who still remembers quite a bit of the Marine Corps martial arts that I took, even though I'm not anywhere near as fit as I was, or in as good of health conditions as I was, I still carry around pepper spray. Because that's, I mean, if I have to intervene and like get him away from me or her,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to make physical contact. I'm going to try and create as big of a gap between me and that person as possible.
Yeah, that's a good call. And I think that's probably a good medium too, because some people think, oh, I'm just going to carry around a gun. Like, you know, you're more likely to get shot by their friend or something if you escalate it that far.
I'm not allowed to carry a gun. So.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
I would say if it came down to it, that I would definitely, the first thing I would do is I would take him to the ground. You know, like we used to do this thing. It was called Bellevue Fight Club when we were in high school.
God.
And we'd set up like, because we were all in the fight club and, you know, it's just coming out, blah, blah, blah. But we did this one-on-one matchup, and like they would size people up and like kind of, you know, put you with someone who's kind of your size. And I remember my first thing I would always do was just do a double leg takedown. Because the guy usually, I mean, like, you know, if you listen to RSD or whatever, when they say every guy thinks he can either win a fight, or that he can pick up chicks.
Yeah.
Like the delusion in the head is like.
I remember that. Yeah.
And guys will always throw like a big right hand haymaker, because that's what you see in the movies. Like some guys throw a big ass haymaker. And,
yeah.
So the theory is that all guys usually attune themselves with one out of those three things,
or that they're just overconfident in a certain situation.
Because I don't align with any of those.
I think there's certain things that the people have strong opinions about until they like come face to face with reality. And that's kind of a cool thing about martial arts is that like when you get a chance to like find out, hey, can I actually fight? Like it's kind of a, you know, it's a humbling thing.
And then you get people like, what was it? Justin Bieber wanted to challenge like,
oh yeah, I saw that. That was Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he wanted to fight Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise?
Oh, that would have been great.
Dude, Tom Cruise, he's had so much, like, just the actors, they get trained for those movies.
Yeah.
Like, he's had real
fight. I put
fight.
my money on Tom Cruise on that one.
Yeah, so
it's like my question is, what are you thinking when you think that's a good idea? Is this a publicity stunt? Like,
probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just saw that Mike Tyson. Oh, sorry. I'll let you ask this question, but I just saw that Mike Tyson is making a comeback. Have you guys seen?
Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I'm stoked for that. He's my favorite fighter of all time.
So I had this question written down before, because the text that Luke sent me about him asking you to do this said that you're like this really spiritual person, and that you're very zen and you're very self-motivated. So based off of what you've already told me, it sounds like there are times where a person that is trained as well as you are could feel very powerful. My question is when do you feel the least powerful in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure that's where I thought you were going with that. Let me think.
Me neither.
I mean, I think there's a lot of situations in which we all feel disempowered, but it's more the situations where we feel like we should feel powerful and we don't. So, you know, if you're if you're on a plane, you know, you don't have any control, and it's and so it's, you know, it's easy to not feel powerful just because you aren't. Let me think.
Is that,
I think,
like,
actually, the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm not sure if this is the kind of answer you're looking for, is self-motivation. I think, and I think a lot of us feel like we have a lot more self-control than we do, especially when it comes to like deeply ingrained patterns. And I know you guys have experienced, you know, some stuff like that in the past, which we may have talked about on different podcasts. But I think especially like type A productive people, you know, myself kind of included on that, would, you know, we have this idea in our heads that we should have complete control of our minds, that we should be able to do the things we want to, and that we should be able to do productive things and not do our bad habits. And, you know, I've struggled quite a bit with that, in the sense that one thing meditation makes you realize pretty quick is you don't have as much control over your mind as you think. You try to focus on your breath for 30 seconds and you get distracted. And so, yeah, so I still struggle with that. And it's probably the time in my life that I get most frustrated is when I feel like, okay, I should get up, I should be productive, I should do things to move my life forward, maintain relationships with people I care about, take care of myself. And then I, like any of us, I find myself, eating unhealthy food, sleeping in late, wasting my time, not doing as well at work as I thought I should. So as I think I should. So I'd say that is the main thing that, where I feel less powerful and that I'm frustrated by that because I feel like I should do better on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel that. I feel the same way right now during the quarantine. It's like, I can eat, I can eat like shitty food and just like justify it. Or on the opposite end, I'll like beat myself up and be like, Luke, it's almost summer. Like, if you don't start working out and doing this now, like, and it's like this constant battle that's going back and forth in my head. So for you, like right now specifically, what are you like working on during the quarantine, or like what's holding you, not holding you back, but what's like an area of focus? Because I
Yeah.
know you always have something like compartmentalized in there, like, oh, I
Yeah.
need to read more books, I need to do this. So what are you
Yeah.
working on?
Well, let me take that back to like what I had expected to work on, what I'd hoped to work on. So, I lost maybe, a quarter, a third of my business when the quarantine started, and a lot of my business is done from the computer now. So I was like, shit, I'm going to have like 12 hours a day to do whatever I want. And, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time meditating. Like maybe I'll meditate like an hour a day. I'm really going to like make sure I eat perfectly, and I'm going to, read all these books I've been putting off, and, make sure I work out, do all that kind of stuff. And, pretty quickly that all fell apart. And, I've been on a lapse on meditating. I haven't been doing it lately. Just haven't felt motivated to do that, and, certainly haven't been studying for work as much as I'd like, or reading as much as I'd like. Um, just kind of coming face to face with my own humanness and my own inability to just kind of push myself and execute like we all kind of hope or expect that we would do, and frequently fall short.
I feel that. I feel that really toughly because so like one of the things that I feel one of the situations where I don't feel so powerful is like,
Mhm.
and let me preface this by saying uh all of my life as a kid, as a teenager, I was on the computer doing computer stuff, and my parents were always like, "Oh man, you're so smart. Like you understand this stuff. Like you get it. We don't understand what you're even talking about. You're speaking another language." And then I go to the college and I sit in some of these classes, and then I feel like they're speaking another language to me. And so I've been hyped up to believe that I know so much about computers, and I have this like knowledge.
Yeah.
And then I walk in there and I realize I know absolutely nothing.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally relate to that. My parents kind of had the same strategy, which was like, you can do anything. You're good at this. You're good at that. You could do this. You could do that, which is great. It's better than someone chastising you, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also it's just unnuanced in the sense that it's not recognizing your people's limitations, the fact that there's a lot of other smart people out there. It's a competitive world. We all have you know um, I think there's a place for that, but there's also the place for us being realistic about what we can accomplish. And it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, you guys, you've seen The Matrix, right?
Of
Yeah.
course, dude. That's my
Yeah.
favorite fucking movie, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, me too, dude. You know when Neo goes to see the Oracle for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and then that sign, above the door says "Know thyself."
Yep. In
Yeah.
Latin.
From
Yeah. Yeah.
Originally came from the Oracle of Delphi,
Yeah.
and this is something that I was thinking about recently, like, because I'm the same way. Like I got told, like, I'm smart, I can do anything, I can be what I want to be, but it's also it's almost like it can hurt you as much as it can help you. Because I for many years I had that belief like, oh, I could do it if I wanted to. I just don't want to,
Yeah.
And it kind of it made me think like it made me judgmental because I would look at other people like, managers or bosses or teachers and be like, I could do that job better than you, without actually doing it. And
Hmm.
then once you start like getting older, at least for me, like getting older and like doing certain things, it doesn't seem so easy anymore. So I guess for somebody like me or maybe you guys, it's like putting in the work and like proving it, as opposed to the other end of the spectrum for somebody maybe they were told like they're not shit, they'll never be anything, and their struggle is the opposite, but they're each a struggle. It's all relative. So I think that know thyself, like which side are you on and which one is working against you, and to focus on that,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It is
totally.
a pretty blanket statement to say know thyself, because no matter what side of the fence you're on, whether you're struggling with the fact that you're so good at this one thing, but you can't pick up anything else, and you can't figure out how to do anything else, or you're not good at any one thing, or you don't, you feel less powerful than other people, or even people who are like, you know, any kind of situation like that. Like for me, it's also walking into groups of strangers and striking up a conversation. And I think that knowing thyself allows you to push past those boundaries if you find the right way to do it. And recently I hooked up with a group of people that are, all fans of this YouTube channel. Um, and it's basically a group of people here in Seattle that get out of their comfort zone on a regular basis and go to meetups with strangers. And the first one we went to this, the Family Fun Center in Tukwila, and we just had a blast
oh
together.
yeah.
I knew none of these people. This guy came and picked me up in his like police car that he had bought at auction, and it had like all the bells and whistles in it still. And turns out that he likes the same kind of music I like, and it ended up being a really fun time. But like, if I hadn't known what I was going for at that time, like like know thyself is something that I was able to kind of grasp, but not really under that name or under that title, by
Yep.
going through that year-long outpatient that Luke and I went through. And it gave me an opportunity to sit back and say, who am I and what do I want out of life?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that it ties back to something Luke was just saying that I wanted to comment on anyway, which was sometimes when you don't know yourself clearly, or when someone what I think what Luke was saying is when you feel like, oh, I could have done that, um, or I should have done that, but I didn't. Um, it ties back to those things like social situations where people are scared to do it, but they've been told they're good at everything, so they're
Mhm.
scared to be bad at something. They're scared to like take a risk and try with that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
that was kind of something I went through for, God, I want to say at least a decade, and probably still to this day, is when you feel like you should be good at everything, and people have given you that, when you have a chance to take an encounter like that where you might make an ass of yourself, or it feels risky or scary to you, it's hard to take that leap and be like, wow, I might suck at this, like I might fall on my face. And that's something I've had to push past a lot in my life.
Well, Josh, what do you think for you? I mean, everybody is different, but what's like your measure of success? Like when you're doing something, or your beliefs around success? Because you've mentioned relationships. Is like having and maintaining like good relationships, good friends. Your girlfriend. Is that like something that you measure success by, or what is it for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Should have thought about some of this stuff before I started this podcast.
Hey, I'm just going off the top of the
Yeah,
head.
yeah, no. I think that our egos get in our way a lot when we try to define this kind of stuff, and people think of success and money around money or that kind of stuff. And what I try to bring it back to on this kind of thing is like first principles, right? And if you, in my opinion, the only two things that are important in this world are making the people around you happy and, and your own well-being, right? And so if what you're doing is not contributing to the well-being of the people around you or your own, it's a waste of time at best and counterproductive at worst, right? And so when we can see through some of the illusions of like trying to prove something to other people or trying to be better than other people or prove something to ourselves or anything else that's wrapped up in a lot of ego, and we see just more clearly like, hey, are the interactions I'm having with other people helping them? Are they making me feel good? And if they're making me feel good, is it because I'm like feel like I'm better than other people, or is it because I'm genuinely contributing something or like expressing myself authentically? And what I'm doing in the world, like, am I making the world a better place? Would the world be better if I wasn't here or if I am here? So I'd say success, to sum it up, in like a catchphrase would be like, are you kind of like a light to the world in some respect, or are you just like bringing other people down to try to get, whatever you think is important?
I think that one of the big things that I've gone through is not really a matter of am I important in the world, but like am I important to myself, right? And for a long time after doing drugs for 8-9 years, uh, it was pretty difficult for me to decide that on my own. Um, and I know a lot of people continue to struggle with it outside of the realm of drug addiction. Like there are people who are perfectly sober and go about their day and wonder why the heck they're even going about their day. Like what does it even matter? Like what difference does it make? And I think that it would be really cool if at some point in the near future we could sort of normalize the idea that everyone has worth and everyone has value, even if most of their contributions to the world are negative. Because like we can, because even if that is the case, we can learn from all of that, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't want to ever see, another World War II because somebody thinks that some group of people doesn't have worth. Everybody has worth. And, even Joe Schmuckatelli out on the corner smoking the crack pipe, I think he has a lot of worth,
mm-hmm.
because a lot of people see him and label that and immediately think he's never going to amount to anything. I
Yeah,
was that guy. I was that guy. I was the guy that was breaking into people's cars in the middle of the night and stealing everything I could out of that car to try and make money for another bag. Um, and now I have friends who cherish me and tell me that often, and it's just the most satisfying, fulfilling part of my day.
yeah,
Is being able to show up for those people. So I would really love to see something like, the normalization of human life being appreciated everywhere, uh, as human life rather than just a label of human life. So like junkie or, whatever.
totally, totally.
Yeah, it was weird because I had that thought. Actually, today I was going to the store down here, and oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, but you keep,
You're choppy, but we can hear
yeah,
you just fine. Yeah.
All right. Anyways, I was going to the store, and Jake, because you live across the hall, but
mhm.
right down this road on the way to Dan's Market, it's just like a sea of crackheads.
Yeah,
Like
it's really sad.
you swim through them.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm out there. I'm like, I'm just going to the store, get an energy drink. I'm like, Barry Sanders juking these crackheads, like trying to get past them. They're asking me for money and stuff. And I have no, like, they ask me for something or like step in front of me or, whatever. It doesn't bother me because I'm like, that was me. But the other part of it is like, I thought about it and I was like, that person could get clean, and I'm sure they're actually a really good person because everybody that I've met in the rooms of AA or, Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, everyone I've ever met in recovery, they're all actually really good people. They're just hidden away when they're using. Like, it's a deep part of you, but those people out there that are using today, maybe in a year they get clean, and then the real person kind of comes out of the shell and they're actually a really good person. So I guess for me, it's like, I'm not out there trying to actively save people and try to get them, because they're not. Like, when I was using, I didn't want to get clean until I wanted to get clean. There's nothing you could say. But I guess my new goal is, when this quarantine ends and then we start going back to meetings and stuff, the newcomer that comes in and they're just kind of testing the waters, I want to be more outgoing to these newcomers, to help keep them, like Josh said, in the light, and help them rekindle that light. Because when you're out there for a long time, man, you lose so much hope and so much. The world's so dark.
So I was kind of thinking about, and this ties right back into kind of what Josh was saying about potential, people having potential, and like, and your business, right? Your business is to train people, right? And so I'm sort of wondering, what is the way that you go about helping people see they have potential and motivating people when you think that they're stuck, because we all get stuck when we're going through training like that, and we like kind of plateau off a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, is there a way that you sort of talk them through it, or get into their heads and say, hey, this is, is there a set of words that you usually go to, or is it on a case-by-case basis? I mean, walk me through that process, because I feel like everybody has potential, but it's a matter of unlocking it, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that'll lead me into a question I wanted to ask both you guys that I'll try to keep in the back of my mind until I finish this answer. One of the things that's unique about training, especially personal training, and that I try to take full advantage of, is if you go to a high school or something, it's, there's a certain level of material that's being taught, and you either fall behind or you don't. And once you fall behind, it's very hard to catch up. And I'm sure there's some similarities there with drugs and withdrawal, where you felt like, wow, I just wasted 5 years of my life. How am I ever going to catch up to these people who didn't? And that's a horrible feeling, and you end up squandering more of your life, because if you get 5 years behind in math and you're in a high school math class, like, it just doesn't make any sense to you. And you can't even learn what, like, a year's worth of math there, because it's speaking a different language at that point. So tying back to your question about personal training, probably the biggest thing I can give my clients, honestly, is continuing to meet them right where they're at, whether they progress really quickly or really slowly. And if I have someone who, loses 5 pounds, relapses for 3 months, and, their eating habits go to shit, and then they call me again and come back, and they start from square one, and then they fall off again. And we just start over every time. And I try to take it at the level they can. Like, hey, let's just see if we can get breakfast right. Let's see if you can show up to this session, and we'll do some exercise, right? And the biggest thing I can give my clients, and I think one of the biggest thing anyone can give anyone trying to accomplish something that's difficult for them, is just an endless sense of patience with them, and an endless sense of the willingness to start over and try again from where you're at. Because anything other than that is just, it's like trying to start someone in calculus before they've done algebra or before they've done addition. You have to create this space for people to step through the door when they're ready, and have infinite patience for them when they're not. And sometimes it takes a year and people make no progress, and then all of a sudden they lose 30 pounds, or they get strong, they get back on the horse and achieve all their goals. And just to create that context and that space for them, I think is the most important thing I do in the context of your question.
Awesome.
It's not about forcing people to get their shit together faster and giving them a prep talk. And like Lucas said,
yeah,
no one can, when he was using, no one can tell you like until you're ready, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No one would have ever gotten through to me.
Yeah,
There were multiple times where my parents literally cut me off. They said, "Don't call me. We don't want to talk to you. We
yeah,
don't want to hear from you. We don't even care. Don't
yeah,
even try
yeah,
until you've had a year clean."
yeah. And
But that's
what I try to do is, it's obviously it's different because I'm training people, and you guys are talking about substances, but what you said earlier about it feeling so good to know someone cares about you, and wants to see you and has your best interest in mind. I think it means a lot for people who are in a dark place to have someone like, hey, I'm not going to try to force you to change or anything, but I'm here for you and I care about you regardless. And if you're ever ready, I'm here for you. And that's that's kind of the perspective I try to take. But
yeah.
I did want to ask you both a question before we move on. When you guys were at a darker place, what what do you guys any of you have an instance or an interaction with someone that you remember and made a big difference for you, like someone who was kind to you when they didn't have to be, or someone who gave you something that made you believe a little bit in human goodness so that you could get better, something that that was integral to your recovery in a way that might not seem obvious.
Yeah. So, and it didn't, I'm going to preface this by saying it didn't really affect my recovery or my journey towards recovery from drug addiction at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it did implant the seed
Yeah,
for me to look at someone and say, maybe not all people are bad.
yeah,
Right. So, when I was using heavily, for a long time, I dated this girl, and we kind of just did everything together. It was a symbiotic relationship, but a very toxic one. It wasn't a good relationship, but it was there because we felt like we were the only ones that we could trust. And I can't remember how that ended. I just remember that it was born out of a friend of a friend kind of thing, where I was at someone's house, and she showed up and picked me up and said, "Hey, I need you to drive for me to go do this." And I said, "Okay, whatever." But like probably about a year and a half or 2 years before I got sober, maybe probably more closer to a year and 3/4. Um, Me and her were frequenting this feed, a homeless feed where they show up and you get breakfast, and it was in Linwood, and we ended up meeting these guys there who came there to try to bring people from the streets into their church that they were going to. And so we did that just because we needed to feel something, right? We needed to feel like something real. And I don't want to get too heavily into religion, but like that's why we went. So we went because we felt like maybe going would give us some sort of relief, even if we didn't know if it was real or not, right? So we go and we end up meeting these two guys, and one of them so I can't remember how it came up, but one of them said that they needed, or that they had a car that we could buy for like $200. And that was a smoking deal, because when you're out on the street in the middle of winter, having a car that you can turn on and park in a safe place and warm up in the night and have the windows shut and locked and have a space to store things was absolutely of maximum value, right? When we were what our previous instance of housing was a tent in the woods, where we would use the faculties right outside the door because health conditions wouldn't allow us to get much further than 5 feet before waking up in the middle of the night and wetting the bed. So having a car offered to us for such a cheap price, regardless of the fact that it was, like 13 years out of tabs and there was no title, we didn't care. We just felt like, oh man, this person like doesn't even know us and wants to help us. And we ended up buying the car, and it lasted us up until I got sober. But through that connection that we made with that person, and we ended up getting really close to the pastor, and he, would give us gas money when we came to church. And it was just one of those moments where you actually feel like there's some good in the world when you're surrounded by darkness. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's probably what stands out for me the most. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Lucas, do you have a related?
Yeah.
Boy, your internet's really bad, bud.
Yeah, you just cut out for a
mine
second.
is.
Yeah, you're freezing and stuff.
Hold on.
He's running off everything off of a little hotspot. So
Little potato.
yeah, I got the HD stuff going on up in here.
Is that any better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you just
Cool.
froze for a minute.
I've just moved the little hotspot over here, so maybe it's better. Yeah, I was just trying to think of like the most recent time. That was when I was using. It's like 2018, but for me, it was. It's hard because I've relapsed twice since getting clean for a couple years, and then I relapse, and it always starts off okay. But for me, man, like the drugs that I use, like I use heroin and I use methamphetamines. And I don't know why, like it sounds so weird to say that, because you always grow up and you hear those words and you're just like, oh, fuck, that's so taboo, and then you think about using needles and you're like, fuck that,
Mm-hmm.
But as my addiction just progressed and progressed, like when I was smoking meth, right? And it gives you this crazy rush of like, kind of like Adderall, where like you're doing everything, you're cleaning everything, you're doing all your homework.
It's pretty much indescribable, the rush that you get. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, it just kept progressing and progressing to where I was just using it every day. And when everybody around me basically fell away from me because they knew I had relapsed and I'd spent all my money, I got fired, I got, my car got repoed, and I traded all my, like things like this, like my keyboards and my computers, and I pawned all of it just so I could keep using because that was the only thing that made me feel good anymore. I literally like shot my system to where, normal things like doing stuff like this or eating good food or even having sex, like those natural highs, like they didn't feel good anymore. The only thing that would make me feel pleasure was using the drug. And when I got so deep in it, the problem for me was that methamphetamine makes you so paranoid. Like it's horrible because
Yep.
It's like a byproduct of the drug. So you're getting high, you're feeling good, but you're also increasing your level of paranoia to where like I became so fixated on things where like, I'm covering up the camera on my computer because I don't want the CIA looking in my fucking house. Like I'm reading all these conspiracy theories on Reddit and I'm going crazy, man. Like I'm looking at the chemtrails in the sky and like all these things are coming true because your mind like is so powerful that like for me it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like I'd look at someone and be like, is that guy a cop? And then like and like I would stare at the guy and then like he would look at me and like turn away, like a normal person, and I'd be like, that's exactly what a cop would do. And it becomes this like never ending like self-fulfilling prophecy to where I couldn't trust anybody. Like I had this like theory in my head that like the cops were chasing me. The Fed had my phone tapped, like because I was using these drugs and they wanted to follow me so they could see my drug dealer and then his drug dealer and his plug and go up until they caught, the kingpin or whatever. So I had this crazy thing where I couldn't talk to anybody. Like I couldn't go to my family. They didn't want anything to do with me because I relapsed. I couldn't go to the police because the police I thought were the bad guys. You know what I mean? And I couldn't go to my friends. I had no insurance. I couldn't go to treatment. And for me, the only thing that really saved me was other addicts that I had met previously in recovery, because they knew, like, they could see through my bullshit. Even in like that mode, like I'm talking about it now laughing, but when you're living it, like it's so horrible. And then like I guess in a short answer, the guy who helped me, the two guys, one of them's name was Jay, and he's been my friend for many years, and he was my first sponsor actually. And this last time when I was just all fucked up, he came and picked me up in the middle of nowhere at like a bus stop, and he's always, like you said, Josh, just the patience. And it reminded me when you were talking about that, like that's how this guy has always been for me. He's like a father figure almost, but he's seen me relapse and come back and relapse, and he's always just been a friend. I trust him with my life. He's the one that I would always call, when I would just hit like absolute rock bottom, and he would help me, kind of put my life back together, because he could see that. So having guys like that, and guys like Jake, like other addicts, are people I really need, because if when I go down that deep fucking hole, like there's nobody I can turn to except for other people that have been there to come grab me and like literally like pull me out of fucking hell. So,
And even then when you it's hard to identify when you're on your way down that slope, right? Like you're, as an addict, my brain will rationalize that everything is okay up until I've got the pipe in my mouth. And even then, even beyond, right? Like I could be high for a week and I'll be like, oh man, I'm fine. It's okay. It's okay. I don't need to reach out. I'm fine. I can bounce right back from this. It's okay. But yeah, that is like the biggest thing, is and the biggest reason that I'm sober for 2+ years at this point is because I have literally surrounded myself with people who are cut from the same cloth, or people who really understand and take to heart the fact that, no, I don't want to go to the bar with you, right? So by that I mean, like, when I meet a new person, it's usually one of the first things out of my mouth, hey, I'm in recovery. And that sets the playing field for like what that relationship with that person is going to be like. So
yeah.
I immediately out myself before I get a chance to fuck it up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just like getting older. So, like for Josh, for you, how, like, as you've gotten older, because I know, like, when we met, we were going out a lot. We were doing a lot of the social scene, the bar scene, clubs and stuff. But now, what do you do for like your social life? Or is it more like you're focused on your business, you're focused on your girlfriend? Like, what is it for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's always hard to transition out of things that have always been there to fill a niche for you, just like going out was for us, and drugs were for you guys. It's like when you're off them, the hardest thing to do is fill that space, right? So we had a social life where we'd see the same people every weekend, and it was just fun to spend 8 hours together every weekend. And so when that dropped off, honestly I think jujitsu was one of the things that made that seem less necessary. It's such a community thing, and it's similar to how you guys were describing how only someone who's been through what you've been through can really understand you in that way. And so reaching out to other addicts and other addicts willing to help you was so helpful. It's hard to explain how closely you can develop bonds and friendships with people in jiu-jitsu, because it's like there's something about being like locked in physical combat for 5 minutes and trying to take each other's head off, and then slapping hands and smiling at each other at the end, that just like, it's like you really know this person really quick, and you trust this person really quick, and you share this you share this hobby and this love that's, you know, the same for both of you. And so for me, it's really helped me connect closely with a lot of people, and given me a community in the same way I think church gives a lot of people community and meaning. And that's been a big outlet for me. I've also stayed close with some of my good friends from before, and you know, my girlfriend, and found other outlets too. But that's been a big one for me. I think anything that gives you some sort of community like that is super important.
So like with what's going on now in the world, you're obviously not able to do any of that, right? So
Yeah.
how are you channeling that energy?
Yeah, good question. Um, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm channeling it super effectively. I'm sitting home alone in front of a screen more often than I would like,
Mm-hmm.
and doing less interesting things than I would like these days. But you know, it's nice that I have some close friends, and it's you know, it's obviously nice to have a girlfriend. But like we were saying, it, you know, about meaning or what success means, like you might have realized, and I think you've told me this, when you hit bottom, like, you realize what matters is that you have people in your life that care about you, and that you can rely on, and that care about you. And I've noticed kind of the same thing. I mean, success is so empty without other people to share it with.
Mm-hmm.
And so my close friends, and keeping that friendship has been really important to me. I even have like a shared journal I do with my good friend Shell, who Lucas knows, where we post most
Yeah.
days of like stuff that's going on in our life. It's just a shared Google Doc. And you know, before this, I just had like a hour-long call with one of my other good friends. And yeah, it's like, life is kind of about sharing it with people. And so when I don't get a chance to see as many people, I guess I try to stay closer with the people I am really close to.
That's really crazy because I was talking to my friend the other night, and we were talking about how we feel like, because we don't go out and interact with people that we don't know, like, so like on a normal day for me, I would get up, go up to the college, sit through class, and then sit in the tutoring room and work as a tutor for however long. And throughout that day, I would interact with, you know, so many people, whether it was passing someone in the hallway and saying, "Excuse me," or talking to my boss, right? But those are interactions with people in the real world that would, you know, either energize me or take away my energy. But because I lack that now, I think that I've reached out more to the people that I already have connections with, and I think that we've bonded in a way that's far surpassed any other bonding we've done before the pandemic, because
Mm.
I need that connection with those people,
Yeah, that's great.
you
That's
know.
great.
So yeah, both of you do have something that I don't, though, and that's a girlfriend. So be very grateful about that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I've
bought her
heard
on
dating
Craigslist.
during this period is a nightmare.
Whoa, Luke,
Yeah.
demonetized, bro. Whoa.
Yeah. Oh no, I bought yeah. I found her online on eBay.
Jesus.
Oh, nice.
You're lucky we're not able to monetize our channel yet.
We got 3 fucking subscribers, dude. What are we gonna make 13 cents?
8 subscribers.
8. So okay, sorry. Sorry.
Anyways. But yeah, so I mean, I think that moving forward, I think that it's really difficult to like keep an eye on yourself and know thyself in a way that won't ever trip you up, because me as a person, I know that if I'm trying to do something new, I'm going to overthink it enough to where I think that I know myself, and I think I know how I'm going to be able to handle it. And I often surprise myself, but I also often am right. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I want to know, as like kind of as a final note, what are your thoughts on people who uh, need help seeing that they have potential, or need help knowing that they have the ability to accomplish what they need to accomplish, um, Or just do you have any final thoughts before we close this out?
Yeah, well, I'll comment on that. I've seen, like, one of the things that's interesting and unique about my profession is I get to kind of be a fly on the wall for often people's most difficult journey, because I get a lot of people who have been struggling with their weight for 30 years or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, and finally find a way to change. And I get to be, I get to see them several times a week and see them go through it. So I know firsthand that people can and do change. And sometimes it just takes a really long time, and you have to be patient with yourself. You have to, I tell my clients this all the time. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna relapse. You're not gonna be able to do it perfectly. You're not gonna be able to think it out in advance. You're not gonna be able to just like work so hard that you get there in 2 weeks. It's, you know, being human is just a lifetime of falling flat on your face and getting up again. And I think anyone who's lived long enough or had an intense enough life realizes that nothing goes according to plan. And I'll share a personal anecdote here, which I don't know is appropriate, but it kind of
Do
highlights
it.
the point.
Do it.
I had all these plans for myself about success and all these things at a certain age, and it was like 29 or 30 or whatever, um, and when I got there, not only did most of that stuff not happen, but I actually found out that I had thyroid cancer, and I had to get major surgery. I was under for like 8 hours. My parents were really worried, and it wasn't bone cancer or something, and I'm okay now. But like, life will surprise you. Life will trip you up. No one has a smooth ride. No one just rides all the way through. And if you can expect that and embrace that and just roll with the punches, and if you fall flat on your face, you try again. I think that's all any of us can do. And just need to realize that we're all human. We're all in the same boat together. Everyone's encountering the same things, and best we can do is support each other in the difficult but interesting journey.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. What came to mind when you were saying that was, I think the biggest thing is just consistency. For anything, like, I'm learning the piano and other stuff, and even when I was working out really heavy and blah blah blah, I think if you just choose something and just say, like, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm just going to take this slow, and it just becomes like a part of your life now, like, especially with like the working out too, because there's been times where I've been in great shape and then I get complacent, and then I revert back to old habits, and I think anything, like, if you commit to it and just say, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing this and I'm going to keep learning more. That's what's helped me, like, whether it's with music or, anything I've tried to do. It's like, if I just keep learning about it and researching it and reading new books on it and talking to people about it over time, like, if I stay on this road long enough, I'm going to get where I want to go. So all these little failures along the way, it doesn't matter. It's like, it really tests your spirit. Like, this isn't going to break me, So I think the consistency with anything is the most important. So.
Agreed.
Totally.
Well, hey, listen, I want to thank you for coming on, Josh. We really appreciate it. Having another person's voice and sort of mindset on these kinds of things is what we're searching for here at Genuine Connections. You've certainly given me a lot to think about as I walked forward with my life. Yeah, I just really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Do you want to plug your business really quick before we end it?
No.
No.
I mean, like, you can find me if, yeah, reach out to you guys if someone's genuinely interested. But you know, I have enough clients, and
Okay.
if someone really needs help, I'm here. But you know, I don't need to plug myself.
For sure. We'll send them your way. Thanks again, Josh.
Have a
Cool.
good one. See you
All
guys.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.